Shalom everyone and Shavua Tov, and we are right now in Parashat VaYera. And Parashat VaYera, like the previous parashot, has to be understood relatively to the previous ones, especially with Lech Lecha, and we'll relate it to that. Okay, so the time frame that we are talking about into the sages, Parashat VaYera starts 3 days after the end of Parashat Lech Lecha. What was the end of Parashat Lech Lecha? The end of Parashat Lech Lecha, Avraham Avinu Abraham the patriarch is circumcising himself. He's 99 years old. Okay? He just got the message. Before that, he had no idea. Now, let's get to understand what does it mean. In the last, like a summary of last Parashat Lech Lecha, Abraham is the first person who's getting the idea, but he's getting it in stages. It has to come in stages, and he explains to us what should we do in our spiritual journey, because life is a spiritual journey, and more than that, every day is a spiritual journey. And if you don't see your day as a spiritual journey, you miss the day. It's like it's a lost day. When are you going to get it back? That's another issue, but it's not for today. But the fact that you woke up in the morning is because you got another opportunity to make things different. That's why you woke up in the morning. And that's what you have to understand every morning again and again. And that's why the parasha starts with the word Lech Lecha. Previous parasha. Lech Lecha means, in real Hebrew, no translation in the books, it means get out, move on. You've got to move it. That's what this parasha is about. And Lech Lecha is about the moving on that makes Abraham to become the person he became, because he never sat quietly. He was on the go, moving. And we explained last week, I just do it in a very short summary. It says, Lech Lecha, me'artzecha mimoledecha, from your birthplace, from your father's place, from your country. Although a little kind of problem, Abraham is in Haran, which is in Turkey. His birthplace is in ancient Sumer, in Ur, which is south of Iraq. So he's not home. He's not in his father's place. It's not his country. So what is like that about? So we said that some of the sages, the commentaries are saying, the Zohar is saying, Lech Lecha, get out of your birth chart. With the birth chart, with the birth of the moon, the houses and stuff like this. What does it mean? That's the way you're born. And every day then when you get up, that's what you have to leave. You have to leave your box. You have to leave your old perception, belief system, and so on. That's what makes you alive and human. And this is very important. This is crucial because without that, you're going always to feel that you're losing something, that you're missing something, because your soul, your neshama, will feel that, so why did I come back in the morning if you're going to feed me with the same old things? So I have to do something differently. Does it mean that I have to change my workplace, that I change my spouse, my apartment, my home, my house? No, it's about the perception. It's all about the perception. And if you want to go to the details, you go to the recording of last week. So Abraham's walking forward and moving on. The condition was in the beginning, and we mention it because God mentions it to Abraham, V'nivrechu b'cha kol mishpechot ha'adama. How do you know your vision is a true vision? Is when you realize you're becoming a blessing to all families of earth, which is the thing. A lot of people, most people, their vision is to live quietly and nicely, that nobody notice them, and just to be comfortable. Okay? But to remind you, 2 weeks ago, we had Parashat Noach, that Noach means comfortable. Didn't work. Noach's vision did not work. Abram came and changed it. And from Noach, comfortable, you change into Lech Lecha, move on. Move on means you want to be happy, you have to move on. Now, and you have to understand that the vision has to be something about becoming a blessing for all families of earth. It's like, what am I doing that makes this world a better place? And if you know the butterfly effect, whatever you do with the consciousness that by doing that, you affect positivity all around the world, you're in the right direction. Okay? And the Talmud talks a lot about it, that a person has to see himself like the whole world is evil and positivity, and by one action, you can tip the scale. One action can tip the scale, and that's your action. If you think like this, then you're on the right track. So also we learned last week, you have, in order to be able to move on, you have to fill up your tank with energy. And how do you do that? If you don't pray, I'm talking about praying and becoming energized. A lot of people, the more they pray, the less energized they are. They just become empty. They're discharging, not charging when they pray. You know, it says in the Zohar, that Rabbi Shimon says, that in our generation, most people go to the synagogue, pray the prayer, and they come empty as they came in. Why? Because they have no idea how to charge. They're usually discharging when they pray. I don't know a lot of people that love to pray. A lot of people, when they pray, they just get empty. So how do you learn to pray and charging? You have to study some Kabbalistic meditation. And my experience of 37 years of doing that, if you don't study Kabbalistic meditation, you have no idea what Jewish prayer is about. You just think you have to talk to God, and being a nudnik, you tell him how great he is, and that's what he needs you to hear. Wrong business. You're in the wrong place. So, and wrong belief system. Abram is learning and teaching us that you have always to connect to the light of the Creator in order to move up. So he's moving up from the age of 75. When he moves to Canaan, till the age of 99, that's how our story ends in the end of Lech Lecha, that he realized that he has to circumcise himself. Which means, was he wrong all the way from 75 to 99? No. He got to that place thanks to all the good actions that he did before. So, otherwise, the Torah is not going to let us learn the story of Abraham's life till he circumcised himself. Because what he did till that moment was not wrong. It's simply what led him to that place that he did the right thing. Okay, so now Abraham circumcised himself, and then, you know, it is in the movie, 3 days later. Okay, and our parasha of this week is starting. VaYera elav Hashem be'elonei mamre. And God reveals to him, the word is reveals to him. VaYera means in Hebrew being seen. But you have to understand, when the Torah is using the word Reish, the Shoresh of Reish Aleph Hey, seeing, he talks about vision, prophetic vision. In the book of Samuel, it says that the prophet is being called Haroeh, the seer. What do I mean? That he sees colors? No. This is images? No. That he sees stuff that is beyond the five senses realm. That's about seeing. So when it says over here, VaYera elav Hashem, and God is being revealed to him, we are talking about a revelation of a scale that never been seen on earth since the creation. This is the peak of humanity till that moment. Why? So let's try to understand. The Zohar is giving us a story that we spoke about it in the last previous parashot, and the Zohar starts with that story. Why? Because we need to listen to it all over again. Okay? So whoever thinks that I'm repeating something he already knows, listen carefully, because if the Zohar repeats it, means that you have to listen to it again too. Okay? And if nothing changed in you in the last few weeks, why did you wake up every morning in the last few weeks? Okay? ask this question for yourself. Rabbi Chia Patach, and that's how the Zohar starts of this week's commentary for Parashat VaYera. הניצנים נראו בארץ, את הזמיר הגיע וכל התור נשמע בארצנו. It's a verse from Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. Usually, if you grow in Israeli school, that's a song that you sing in the beginning of the spring, because it says, translation, the buds have been seen in the earth. Et hazamir higia, it's a time of the singing of the nightingale, right? Which is the singing of birds nesting. Kol hator nishma b'artzenu, and that's the singing also. We hear the wild doves singing also. Okay, sounds very nice, and that's good for kids to symbolize. In the Israeli schools, you have it also on the walls. Spring has come, we're partying. Okay, what the Zohar says, this is a code for something much deeper than that. It's a code for the story of the creation and how Abraham is a necessity in the story of the creation. Okay, so let's go to the story over again. Okay. כאשר ברא הקדוש ברוך הוא את העולם, I'm reading from the Zohar, פרשת פירוש הסולם. Okay, we read first from the Zohar in Aramaic. כד ברא קודשה בריחו עלמא, as the Creator created the world, יהב בערה כל חגלה דתחזה לה. He gave in the earth all what it needs, all the power it needs in order to prosper. וכל אהבה בערה, everything was there in the earth. ולא הפיקת העיבין בעלמא. However, the earth did not bring any fruit, which means nothing was there. Why? How is this connected to the verse we just said? The buds have been seen. What is the buds? If you've seen trees during fall and the winter, it's like you see nothing. But if you look carefully, you'll see how little buds are being generated on the branches, and they wait for what? They wait for the spring. They wait till the weather is becoming warmer. So, potentially, the tree is already blooming. Physically, the naked eye won't see that. The same thing the Zohar says, the earth was created and waited for whom? We know, Ad Yitbarei Adam, till the creation of Adam. Now, all what I just said is, it's an image. It's an image to understand that when you study real modern physics, I'm talking the last 100 years, quantum physics, 90 years, okay, 90 years. Quantum physics, you learn, as what the Torah is saying, then there's no witness it didn't happen. Which means human consciousness has to witness an event in order for the event to be happening. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody was there, it did not make a sound. Can you prove? That's what the scientists are saying. You cannot prove that. If nobody measured, if a human being did not measure if it made a sound, can you prove it made a sound? The answer is no. And since whatever you cannot prove does not exist, quantum physics says, which is, again, it's totally illogical. Einstein said about it, the more you learn about it, the more stupid it looks like. Okay? It looks stupid, but how many times you say it's impossible? Why do you say it? It happened, right? Why are you saying it's impossible? You're basically saying, I'm stupid, right? Because if it happened, it is possible. So why are you saying it's impossible? It says, my consciousness cannot understand that. Is it one time in your lifetime that you saw something that you think it's impossible? No, we see a lot of times. Still, there is a kind of a dichotomy between reality and our belief system. We believe this much, that's how this world is, and the world is much bigger than that. You see, I stretch my hands outside of the screen because the world is outside of our screen, okay? The fact is that our consciousness is always trying to fight reality, because reality is much bigger and much more intense and much more extent than our consciousness. So mankind, a long history, is the same way. You had to discover America. Why? Because for most of the people of the whole world, America did not exist. It was just beyond or after, the earth was flat, and after you fall, there's nothing. And then you realize you don't fall, you just discover other lands. Okay? How could people live with their legs up and their heads down? Right? It's not just America, it's South America, South Africa, whatever. How could that happen? The Zohar says that, but it's none of our business right now. So our mind cannot accept it, that, on the other side of the planet, where you are, the people that their head is just the opposite direction. Okay? Can our brain understand that? No. It's reality. And that's a little stuff. What about the real quantum mechanics that speaks about the ability to transfer information from one point to another without that information traveling through the space between the points? Think about it. Our brain cannot understand that. But quantum computers, that's a big hot thing right now. Okay? So the moment people are going to make money out of it, they're going to use it without making any questions. As long as I can get money out of it, I don't question. And by the way, how many of you know how your cell phone works? Very few. You're still using it. So now, we are talking for the last few weeks since the beginning of the book of Genesis about human consciousness. Human consciousness is essential for the creation, for the existence of creation, which means, I read once this quantum physicist. He had nothing to do with Kabbalah, nothing to do with Judaism, and he said, if there was no human consciousness that acknowledges creation, there's no chance there would be any evolutionary process. Which means, to make it simple, because I see some people are already getting confused, consciousness comes before reality. Consciousness creates reality. And now you know very well, when you meet people that their consciousness is messed up, you know after a few minutes that their reality is messed up too, because that goes together. When you meet people that their consciousness is very organized and healthy and full of certainty and positivity, you know that the life on the physical scale is also positive and relaxed and successful, because we know that human consciousness creates human life. Which means, if your consciousness is messed up and you cannot fix it, your life is going to mess up, because life is a result of consciousness. Okay, so why do you have to study Torah? Because the Torah is the strongest tool for a person to strengthen his messed up consciousness. How do you know messed up consciousness? Because most people's consciousness is messed up. How do you know? Look at the media. Look at the media. People consume media. You look at the media, and what do you think when you watch the media? The world is a nice place or a messed up place? People, so messed up consciousness consume messed up media. That's why, if once in a while, people start to create in the market a positive newspapers. Nobody buys, right? It's like people's world religion is complaining. If there's nothing to complain about in the newspapers you're reading, it's like you wasted your time. It's like state religion is to read and to get upset. To read and to get upset. Like, why do people do that? And the answer is yes. Similarities attract. And since you have a messed up consciousness, you consume messed up information. Information about good stuff, people don't consume. It doesn't sell. Information about bad stuff, people love it, right? Look at the movies. You can't go to the movies because most of them are horrible to watch it. It's like it messes up your soul. So why people are consuming that messed up stuff? Because similarities attract. That's a rule. So now when you're wondering why is it most people's lives are messed up, is because your consciousness is messed up. And what the study of the Torah is about, how do you, and by the way, and you wait, after complaining and complaining, you wait things to be straightened up because you just complained, which is a very weird belief system. It's like people believe the more I complain, things are going to become better. According to your experience, does it work? I don't see it working. Complainers, they're not winners. Complainers are losers. Winners are the ones who don't have time to complain because they're busy creating their lives. They have a vision, they stick to the vision, and they work very hard for that vision to come true. Okay? So you have to understand that. So why are we studying Kabbalah? Why are we studying the parasha? Because the parasha has all the time messages how to straighten up our consciousness. And if we're here right now, it's because the last year we didn't do it right. We didn't complete it. So you have another chance, another year. Okay? So if you think you're perfect, so why are you here? Right? There's an Israeli joke about it. If you're here and you're perfect, you must have back pains over here because your wings are growing. Right? And if you don't, you probably have something to do over here to fix your consciousness, because reality is a result of consciousness. So fixing the consciousness is about fixing reality. So now let's move on to it. So the Zohar continues the same way. Shamayim lo yavu cheilin la'ara. Heaven did not give power to earth ad Adam, till Adam came to the world. Hadahu dichtiv, as we said, v'chol siach hasadeh terem yeh ba'aretz. That's in Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, I think. And it says, before any bush of the field grew up. And we asked over there, since when do we care about bushes? We had tree of life, tree of knowledge. What the bush is about? But we said that siach means speech. And the way you talk to yourself, that's how your consciousness is. Because what do you do the whole day long? You tell yourself a story. Okay? So if you tell yourself a story, you might as well tell a good story. Right? Because that's what you do all the time. You just tell yourself a story. Tell a good story. You see how the whole world is going to go around your story. Now, but to continue that, why do we have to go back to Bereshit? We already spoke about that stuff. And then he continues and saying as follows. Adam messed up his consciousness, and that's why he ate from the tree of knowledge. What is knowledge? Consciousness. The whole sin was in a conscious level. And the moment you attract to darkness, darkness attracts to you. And that's a lesson. The moment you bring the snake inside your consciousness, you become the snake. And you can't just blame people around you that things are messed up. It's all about fixing your consciousness. Now, Noah came 10 generations later, and that didn't work either. But then it says, verse 6 in Perush HaSulam to the Zohar, Keivan sheba Avraham miyad hanitzanim niru ba'aretz. The moment Abraham came to the world, and he was the first one to realize the power of consciousness and to take responsibility for that. And that's why, as we said last week, when we are saying Brit, circumcision in Hebrew is called Brit. Brit Milah. But Brit means also a covenant. Circumcision means cutting, but in Hebrew, it means a covenant. The moment Abraham was the first person who really got the covenant. And that moment, what was the covenant? The covenant that was that Abraham basically accepted the responsibility for his consciousness. So that what led him in the previous parasha to where? That God takes him outside the box, outside the universe, and leads him to a place that he shows him, you see, with your consciousness, you can get out of the universe if you don't like it. And you can look at this universe from above. And then you dictate to the sky instead of the sky dictating to you. You dictate to destiny instead of destiny dictating to you. Which means, what is this world about? This world is about the creation. And then comes the commentators and saying, let's go back to chapter 2 in Genesis. And how it starts, Ele toldot hashamayim va'aretz. These are the generations of the heaven and the earth, behi bar'am, as they were created. But, you can't do that with English. Behi bar'am is also, say the sages, the same letters as be'avraham, which means the whole creation of the world was conditioned that finally will come somebody like Abraham that realizes this very special thing. I used to give this example about the world till Abraham was like somebody in prison, and in his cell there's a TV hanging up there, and they're showing all the time the same old movie again and again and again, and he don't have any remote. Abraham was the first one who found the remote. Not just he found a remote, it was a keyboard with 22 keys, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. He was the first one to realize that this whole universe is one big computer program, the matrix. And your job as a human being, you were giving the ability to take the remote, the keyboard, and start joining the process of planning, computerizing, and becoming a partner in the creation. God created everything imperfect for us to perfect it. He created everything just a little bit, just before it's perfect, so we can perfect it. That's our job. And how do you perfect it? By realizing that you are a co-creator, a partner in the process of creation. Okay? Now, Abram was the first one who realizes that. And that moment that he realizes that, he realized that he has that power that happened when he circumcised himself, which means he accepted the covenant, the Brit, the covenant with the Creator. We are co-creators. Therefore, my consciousness is a partner in the story of the creation. If my consciousness is a partner in the story of the creation, that means that the creation is in my responsibility. That means I cannot just think whatever I feel like. I have to take responsibility for my reactions, for my sourness, for my bitterness, for my disappointment and whatever, because it's a game changer. The moment you allow those emotions to taint your consciousness, you create a universe. And because the whole world is dependent on our consciousness, there is this Jewish legend that says that for the world not to fall apart, you need to have 36 tzaddikim, 36 hidden righteous people. Why? If you have 36 people who see the world in a positive view, that's a minimum from stopping the world from falling apart. But they are not enough to fix the world. Fixing the world, you need the whole of mankind to think positive and to think and to accept the covenant of responsibility. And that's called the Messiah. The consciousness of Messiah, which is invented by Abraham, what does it mean? It means one day misery and suffering and pain will come to an end. But how would that happen? When somebody comes and do it for us, As long as you're going to create negative thinking, negative actions, negative events are continue to happen, because that depends on consciousness. It's again about consciousness. So this parasha is very important because it says Abraham started the journey. The whole world was created for Abraham. Now, the moment you accept the covenant, you join the way of Abraham, which means now the world depends on you. Now the world, you're carrying the world on your shoulder, because whenever something happens and you'd like to complain, and you realize, I don't have time to complain. I have time only to generate positivity. I have to overcome the complaint. I have to get out of the world from above and put in positivity, because who else is going to do it? Everybody else is complaining. Everybody else is upset. Everybody else is like wasting time and energy about being disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I'm so upset. I have to express my feelings. That's idol worshiping. This is really creating negativity. Now, how far are we from the Messiah times? We have a long way to go. Okay. Still, what the Mishnah is saying, Lo alecha amlecha ligmor, it's not your job to finish it, to complete it. Ve'en ata rashai libatel minah, but it doesn't mean you're exempt of doing it. Because, as Rabbi Ashlag is saying, every time you overcome negativity, every time you create positivity, you're adding one sesame seed to the positive scale. And that means one day, says Rabbi Ashlag, one person is going to put one sesame seed on the scale, and that will tip the scale. The whole world will transform into the Mashiach times, which people realize, wow, this is amazing. I can really take responsibility for my emotions and thinking. So, because of that, we're starting with VaYera Elav. What is VaYera? As we said before, VaYera means, and Hashem and God, the Creator, revealed to Abraham. It's the first time a human being sees or has a revelation in such a prophetic scale of seeing, not with the eyes, seeing with a higher level, beyond the eyes, beyond the five senses, beyond the logic of the five, really seeing out of the box. That's called prophecy. Seeing the truth. Okay? So, and then we have an issue with it. Rashi, the great commentator, 11th century, he's eternal because, we're still reading him. How many authors do you know from the 11th century that are still bestsellers? They don't print today almost the Torah without Rashi commentary, right? So, and it says, VaYera elav levaker et hachole. So God comes to Abraham to show us the mitzvah of visiting the sick. We learn from it a big thing. If you think that you are more important than the guy who's sick, you can go and visit him. Why? If God could pay a visit to Abraham, you can pay a visit to somebody else who's not in your social status or wisdom status. Okay? Let's say you're a great rabbi, you can go to a simple person and visit him. It's okay. Okay? That's one thing he learned from that. He comes to visit Abraham. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, Yom Shlishi lemilato haya. So Rabbi Chama bar Chanina, that's in Baba Matzia in the Talmud, it was the third day. Why is the third day after the circumcision? It's the most painful one. Okay? V'sha'al bishlomo. He wanted to visit him to, pay tribute. Okay? Now, so here it is. God is coming to visit Abraham, but that's a simple thing. And the verse says, VaYera elav Hashem, and God revealed to him. Now you have a revelation of God, not an extension of God, right? No one ever had a prophetic revelation at that stage. But then it says, V'hu yoshev petach ohel, he's sitting in the opening of the tent, kechom hayom, at the heat of the day. Okay, The Torah never cares about what was the location and what was the weather during the event. How come now we have these two being mentioned? So one thing, the Zohar talks a lot about the whole thing about Petach Oel, the opening of the tent. That means an opening for another. It's an opening. For all of mankind, it's an opening. It's an opening for a new gate. It's a gate for a new universe. A universe in which we have a better understanding of our power to control our lives. Really controlling our lives. Now, so for one thing, we know that this parasha, if this is the name of this parasha, it's all about revelations. It's all about revelations. It's all about prophetic revelations. It's all about revelations beyond that are bigger than our lives. This week is always about that. But then it says something else, kechom hayom, the heat of the day. What is that about? There is a verse in Exodus that says, Lo yirani ha'adam v'chai. A person cannot see me, and stay alive. Because a revelation of such scale is deadly. Why? A human mind, a human heart, a human body cannot contain a revelation of such a scale. It's deadly. So how come Abraham survives? Comes the Midrash and tells us, the Midrash is the legend part, and says, Abraham is 99 years old. He had a circumcision. It's a very important moment in his life. It's not just an important moment in his life, it's a turning point in the history of mankind. He has a prophetic revelation, and still he's stressed out because there are no guests. Give me a break, Abraham. You have a prophetic revelation. You're in the middle of the highest point a human being ever achieved in history. Okay? This is a turning point in the history of mankind. And you care about the guest. Take a break. Enjoy the revelation. Right? Now, Abraham is stressed out. He needs guests. He's so in dire need for guests. So God is saying, okay, that's what you want, I'll send you guests. Because it was too hot. Humans were not going around. So God is sending him 3 angels that are disguised as humans. Abraham, with his prophetic vision, he cannot see the angels. And what does he do when he sees those 3 men? Vayakom, Vayaratz likratam. Vayaratz likratam. He sees and he runs. Guys, the guy is 99 years old. He's with bandages on a very sensitive place, right? He just had an operation 3 days ago. It's very painful. Send somebody to bring them. No, he runs by himself. Vayishtachu arza. And he bows down. And he says, Vayomer. It's like he's saying, please, guys, do me a favor. Don't go on. Come to me. He begs them. Like his life is dependent on it. And you know what? His life was dependent on it. He says, get some water. Wash your legs. Sit under the tree. I'll take some bread. Eat. That he runs and he runs and he runs. Just read the text. He runs. The bread is not enough. Butter is not enough. He runs and he takes a calf. What do you think? It's easy? The calf runs away. So everyone says, I'm 99 years old, Bread will do. No, he runs after the calf. And he runs and the calf runs and he runs after him. Finally, the calf goes into a cave. That's what the legend is saying. He goes into the cave and he realizes this is the gate of Gan Eden. He discovered the cave of Machpelah. Okay? What's going on? What the story is that? And the answer is as follows. One of the most important stuff. You have to remember one thing. A human being is made of 2 parts. One is the body, and the body needs food, good food, warmth when it's cold, cooling when it's hot. You need that stuff. You need entertainment when it's boring, but you have also a soul. And the soul needs godly revelation. Without godly revelation, the soul will be so hungry. The need will be so dire, so that people go mad without revelation. So what do? They get drunk. Because getting drunk, you get some godly light when you drink. Because the wine is a tool to connect to the upper world. There's also drugs. People try to do everything possible in order to connect to something beyond the physicality. And you know what? You know very well that drugs are illegal, right? The problem is that the more the governments of the free world invest in stopping drugs, the more drugs are being sold. You know that. And the only way that right now marijuana became legal is because they found a way to make money out of it. Right? Taxing. Still, people need a connection to beyond. That's a need of a human subconscious mind. It's coming from the soul. If you're going to disconnect the person from God or from godly issues, people will have to connect to it through something else. People need to get high. We are creatures of getting high. Without getting high, we might as well die. The problem is that Abraham is revealing to us a very, very important rule. He reaches that place of becoming Abraham the patriarch because he realized how this universe ticks. He knows the program. He knows how it works. And when he has this revelation, he feels that everything is getting very hot. Why? Systems, when they're overwhelmed, they get hot. And you need a cooling agent. The revelation of the light of God is a necessity. It's not just a necessity, it's a birthright of every human being. We were created for that purpose. If you go to the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato, he says it very clearly, and Rabbi Yashlak just expands it. Machshevet habriya leitiv lanivraim. The whole thought behind the creation is to do good to whatever was created, and that's us, human beings. What does it mean? The creation starts, and God said, let there be light. What's the next thing? And God saw that the light is good. Says the Zohar, every time you experience good, it's an extension of the light of the Creator. So, what is that people want? They want to be enlightened. They want that high. They want that energy of the creation. And they run like crazy all their lives in order just to have a minute here and a minute there of that high feeling. However, there is a catch that most people don't know, but Abraham is teaching us in this parasha. As I said, this week is very intense. Every year during this week, it's intense, very highly intense. People that are born in this week, they're very intense people. They cannot sit quietly and wait for things to get okay. They cannot just even get a little job that is like, filling some papers and to be comfortable. It doesn't fit them. Okay? And if they do that, it's going to explode one day, sooner or later. The point is with that is the revelation is a birthright, and you have to acknowledge that. You need that high. You need that excitement. You must. Now this high, that revelation, Re'iyah, sight, is connected to Chokhmah. Whoever knows Kabbalah, Chokhmah is a level. It's not just a simple word, wisdom. Chokhmah means koach ma, the force of human being. Ma, 45. 45 is the numerical value Adam. The force of Adam, of every human being, is chokhmah. It's also called direct light. The direct light coming from the Creator. We were created to consume that direct light. We were created as beings of want and desire so we can contain that light. That's why we after that light. From the moment we're starting to realize that we are alive. A lot of people don't realize it, but the moment you realize you're alive, you're looking for that light. And subconsciously, you're going for, where can I get it? Where can I get that high? So why is it that drugs are so horrible? They are so destructive. Abraham is teaching us. The moment we are consuming that light of the Creator, which is called that direct light, or the light of wisdom by the Kabbalists, you get overwhelmed and you can get yourself too hot till you burn, you fry. The only way to stop that from happening is you have to create another energy, but that energy you have to create on your own. And it's called returning light, or another aspect of it is all the chasadim, the light of chesed, the light of loving and giving, the light of doing chesed. Now, whoever built a house, you know that in order to get an occupancy permit, or permit of occupancy, you need to be checked that the electrical system is by the code. Why is it so important? Because electricity is very, very powerful. And if you're not wired by code, your house will go on fire sooner or later. That's what happens when people do it illegally. You bribe somebody, and then you get the license of occupancy. Who are you cheating? Then one day, everything goes on fire. Why? It was not by code. Now, Abraham realized that many years before we discovered electricity. We are creatures of energy. You want to go online on God's network? Yeah. Alcohol can do it. Certain drugs can do that. There's a lot of stuff that can do that. You can go into a trance. A lot of religions were created in a way to do that. But you have to remember what Rav Ashlag is saying. The moment of the creation, something happened. Why was this world created? God created everything in perfect state. All the souls were fulfilled with light. But then we couldn't stand that because we wanted it a little bit incomplete. So we can complete it. How do you complete that? When you get something, you generate the light of sharing it. It's not yours, you're sharing. It's God's light, you're sharing. By the way, we have no light to share of our own because we are not source of light. That's why the Bible is talking about counting the calendar by the moon. Why? Because as the moon, we have no light of our own. The moon has no light. The moon has what? Only the light it reflects from the sun. A human being has no light of his own, only the light he reflects from the Creator. So whenever you get the light, what you have to do is to reflect it. How? Doing something good with it to others. Why? Because if you're not going to do that, you're going to get so hot till you fry to ashes. Because that's how you get a license of occupancy, is you have to do it by code. And that's why Abraham has a revelation, a prophetic revelation that never happened since the creation. And what he's up to? He's stressed out. He has no guests. Because he knows if you get so much light and you're not sharing with anyone, you're going to fry. That will be your last part, the last thing you did in your life. That's why Abraham is teaching us Yes, you want to get high. But if you're not going to do good to others, that high is going to fry you, burn you, destroy you, and now you're going to join the complainers. I'm so disappointed, I'm so upset, I don't know why it happened to me. I tell you why it happened to you. You did not share. You want to know why you're upset, why your life is a mess? You're not sharing, you're not creating returning light, you're not generating the light of chesed. And that's why you're not by code. So sometimes you are online and your life looks like on off, like you have a little bit of electricity and then it's gone. You wait till you get the light, the current again, and then it's gone. Why? Because you're not by code. Or you're just sitting in the dark and complain why others. What you see by others is also, when you have a short circuit, how does it look like? It's a big flash of light, right? What happens the next second? Darkness. But you see the flash, you don't see the crash. Okay? And you try to be with those people who have the flash. Okay? And that's the idols. They call it idols, right? Those people, look at Michael Jackson. He was an idol, right? How does life look like? A big flash and a long crash, right? He was miserable most of his last years. Why? Because he was an idol. Everybody said, we want that fame, we want that success, but they didn't see the misery and the pain. What about, what's his name, Elvis? Same story. And everybody in our culture is trying to imitate those failures. Those failures. They flash for a second, and then they crash for a few years, and then what's left of it? A mess, 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 mess. And you want to imitate them. And that's our generation, the young generation. All the media is like, these are the guys you have to imitate. You want to be famous, you want to be rich without working so much, and without doing anything for others, just for yourself. That's a recipe for terrible crash, ongoing crash. And the more you flash, the sooner you crash. And the bigger is the crash. Those guys didn't reach even the ability to mature. They died young. Not because they died young. They died old. They died miserable. They died burnt out because they did not understand the message in this book. This book, the Bible, is a bestseller. Not because it's an interesting book. It has the recipe to figure out how this world is working. And the recipe, it says over here, yes, it's your birthright to have the flesh, to feel high. But you have to work for it. How? Lech lecha. You have to take the path of ongoing improvement, ongoing growth, ongoing expansion of your consciousness. You have to study, you have to communicate with other people, you have to create wisdom. And when you create enough wisdom and you start to experience the highs, you have to remember that those highs are there to stay only if you use that in order to make other people happy and not just yourself. Love others as you love yourself. It says in Leviticus, love others as you love yourself. I'm God. Not because you're doing anybody a favor. That's what we learned from Abraham. Abraham is experiencing that high that no one ever reached. And he's stressed out. I need to share with somebody. I need to do something good for somebody. Otherwise, I'm going to crash. And he does. He gets those angels, so they give him the excuse, he gets out of his comfort zone. And by doing that, he achieves eternity. His wound is being healed. He's being blessed by a son, right? He finds the cave of Machpelah, where he buries his wife and is buried later on. His whole life is turning. Why? Only after he could contain the high with the caring for others. The moment humanity realizes that, doing good to others, you're not doing anybody a favor, only to yourself. You're just expanding your ability to contain the high. And that high will linger for all your life, because charity stays forever. Not taking, only what you give. You leave this world with what you gave. What you gave becomes a container for all what is really yours. And this is the message of this parasha. So when you feel too intense this week, when you feel aching, when you feel the crashes coming, it's because you're not giving enough. So find a way to give, find a way to care for others, to do a lot of acts of kindness, some big ones, but that will get you out of this week full and with a lot of light, but with not feeling the heat. Thank you so much and have a great week.